Hello team, my name is Les Bennett and I'm the Learning and Development Manager with the Stewart Restaurant Group. In today's video I want to look at probably one of the most common repair and maintenance issues we deal with when it comes to our velocity fryers. And that's this. You're cooking a round of original and at the end of the cook cycle the pressure is not releasing fast enough, and as a result the lid will not unlock. When this happens, the front control panel will often say wait. Now the reason that it does this fryer is designed that until the pressure gets down to about 0.7 psi, the lid will not unlock. In fact, if the round of chicken gets done and it's been more than a minute, 60 seconds since that timer has gone off and the lid is still under pressure, you'll get the E86B code. Now as an area coach, when you go into your store, there is ways to go into the control panel to see if that code has been coming up. Now when we're in the store and that happens, there's multiple ways that the cooks can deal with this. Often what they're going to do is they're going to pull the safety relief valve. So if you go into a store and you see that your fryer safety tag has been ripped off, that's usually a sign that the pin has been getting pulled. Now another option that often happens when the fryer is not working like that is we simply just don't use it for original. And all of a sudden this just becomes a crispy fryer, which is not something we want to do either. So in today's video I want to show you what causes this to happen, and really a simple fix to fix this that just involves a few tools and some cleaning agents. So now to address the issue, we're going to have to get into the access panel. The nice thing about this is we do not need to pull the fryer out. We can do this from the front of the fryer. I've already removed the 5 screws that hold this in place. I'm going to pull this panel off. And as we look inside the fryer here, when we cook crispy, most of the pressure is going to be released through here and it's going to come out our stack. But when we cook original, we have a device called a solenoid that just opens and closes. And when it closes, it shuts the line, which means the steam or the pressure can't release. And as a result, the pressure can only go up one way, and that's to hit the dead weight. And until it gets to 12 psi, it won't even move that dead weight. So as we try to resolve this issue, there is a chance that there could be some kind of plug in the line here that is causing the steam to not release, causing the lid to stay locked. But 99% of the time, the issue is going to be within our solenoid here, which is going to have some carbon in it. It's going to have some grease in it. It's going to be gummed up where it's just not opening and closing correctly. So before we ever deal with the solenoid, just a couple safety issues, you need to unplug your fryer first. This solenoid has line voltage here, which will be 208 volt or 240 volt depending on your store. So we always unplug it, and then you always want to wait for it to cool down. So it's best to do this in the morning, usually when you first get there, or you can do it mid-afternoon. You just want to make sure everything's unplugged and it's cooled down. Now as far as tools go, or items I'll need for this project, I'm going to want a Phillips screwdriver or a drill to take the back cover off, which I've already done. I'm going to want a 7/16 wrench or socket. I like to use a flathead screwdriver, but you can also use a needle nose plier. You may want some kind of wrench. Then I'm also going to want a pan with some cleaning solution in it, either degreaser or soap, and then plenty of rags. So before we get into cleaning this, I got a brand new solenoid here, and I just wanted to maybe kind of show you just how this works so you have a better understanding of what we're doing here. So what we do is we have this coil on top, and the coil is hooked up to the control panel. So our set points determine on original when the product needs to build pressure, when original needs to build pressure. So when it's time to build pressure, there'll be a signal that's sent to this coil which magnetizes it. Now when it gets magnetized, I'm going to take this top off here just so you can see. When it gets magnetized, what's going to happen is, I can move my finger so you can kind of see here, this plunger is going to get pulled up. And you can see how that line closed. You can kind of look in there. So it's time to build pressure. That coil gets magnetized. The plunger comes up, blocks the line. So pressure can't be released, so pressure starts to build. Now when it's time to let pressure go, the coil loses its magnetism. And all that happens is it's gravity and the spring right here. Just once it loses that magnetism, that gravity and that spring just push down on this to open up that line again. So it gets magnetized. When it's time to build pressure, the plunger comes up, pressure can't leave the fryer. It starts to build to about 12 psi. When it's time to let the pressure out at the end of the cook cycle, the magnetism is released, and it's just this right here, this little spring right here, which is usually kind of our main culprit. It's just gonna, with gravity, it's just gonna push down, and it's gonna let the pressure out. But what's gonna happen now is the issue we're having is it's probably only coming down partially. It's not coming down all the way to let the pressure out. It's probably just coming down partially. It's getting all gummed up, so it's not moving. So we need to get in and clean this so that way, when it is time to release pressure, the plunger can go all the way down. And it's usually going to be this pin is kind of gummed up. So that's kind of a summary of what we're going to be doing here. Now, as we look to clean this, there's really two ways we can go about it. The first, I'm going to show you just a really quick, you don't have a lot of time, just kind of a quick fix. That's not going to get as detailed, but it may help you out. So what I've done is I've already taken a pair of pliers, and I've loosened this stem right here. I just got in right here, loosened it, and I can just pull this stem right off. And I got my little container with some degreaser, and right here, I can just pull out. Your plunger's not going to be able to come out, but you can get this spring out. That's right at the very top. That will come out. Sometimes it's going to be stuck in there. So the spring is usually one of the biggest issues we have. This one's not too bad, but often what you're going to find with the spring is it's going to be completely plugged up with carbon. So it's going to lose its ability to be springy, I guess. It's just not going to be able to spring back and forth. And that's usually kind of our biggest issue. So just a real quick fix, if I just wanted to take that cap off, take off this spring, I can put it in some degreaser, I can clean it, and I can put the stem back on, and I can put it back together, and it may be good for a while. I can even take a spray bottle and just shoot some degreaser in there. So this is just kind of a quick fix. You're in a hurry, you don't have a lot of time. So now let's maybe look at more of a thorough way to clean it. All right, so what I've done is I've taken a 7/16 ratchet here, and I've loosened up all four of these bolts. So I got them loose, and once you get them loose, you can usually just use your fingers. Now, as we do this, there's another way. If you really wanted to be super thorough, and maybe you thought there was a plug in your line somewhere, you can undo the bolt here, and you can undo it right here. So if I undid these, this whole part, this whole piece, would completely come out, and then I can actually get in here and I can clean this line if I wanted to. But for the most part, when I clean this, I leave it all together like this. I just get these screws, and up here I got my bucket of degreaser. Just being careful not to drop anything into this back cavity, because that's just gonna really just double how long it takes to do everything if you start losing pieces. So I keep all my pieces together. I'm cleaning everything. I've already loosened these four bolts, so I'm just taking them off. All right. So now what I'm going to do here is this whole piece pops off. And I'm just going to put it into my degreaser. Now you can look, this one, it has a little carbon on it. It's not too bad. And I can just start taking all these pieces out. Just careful not to drop them. Okay, now there's going to be two pieces down in here that I'm looking at. And I'm going to take the piece on the right here. And it'll actually, you can use the needle nose pliers. Oops, and I almost dropped it. But I'm going to take this out. And then this whole piece right here kind of comes out. I'm doing this with one hand as I film, but there. Okay. Now I always leave this last piece in right here. It does come out. The problem you're going to have is it goes in a certain way, and the other issue you're going to have is it's very brittle, and there's a gasket back in here. And if you take this out, there's a good chance you're going to break it. And then when you put it back together, you're not going to have a good seal. So what's ever going to happen if you ever notice your fryer, you know, your lid's locked good. There's no pressure leaking out of your lid, but for some reason, when you cook 8 heads, you can only get up to 5, 6, 7 psi of pressure, and you see a lot of the pressure coming out of your stack. But for some reason, it's just not building pressure all the way. That's because this part could be going bad. The problem is, to get a rebuild kit for all those pieces I just took out, it's about $300 to replace all those. And as of making this video, I've called Henny Penny, and they've called the manufacturer of the solenoid, and I cannot get just this piece by itself. I have to get the whole kit. So what I've learned is I just leave this piece in just to make sure I don't make things worse. Now, if I really do want to clean this, I can take this bolt and this bolt off, and I can take this whole piece out, and I can take it over to the sink, and I can clean it in place. I can also, right here, I can just shoot some degreaser in there, take a towel, get in there. But I often leave this last piece right there. I just kind of leave it in. But I took everything out. Now we're going to take all those over to the sink. We're going to clean them, and we're going to come back. So now before we put it back together, I'm going to take the brand new one I had, and I'm going to put it together here on top of the fryer just so we have maybe more of a clearer picture of what's going on. But I'm going to take this white cap, take the smaller spring. It's going to go right over the top. Now I got this piece. There's a top, which is shorter, then the bottom is a little bit longer. But this is just going to go into here. And I got to make sure it goes all the way in so it doesn't get caught on the lip. It needs to be able to go all the way in. Now, I took this plunger. This is the one I took out of the fryer. It's a used one. You can tell on this side there's kind of a circular shape there, imprint. And on the other side there's an oval shape. That oval is from rubbing against this piece in here. And what I want to do is I want to make sure the side that has the circular shape is going to go right into this. And now here's the top part. I'm going to come in from the top, and I'm just going to make sure this is flat. It's all the way on there. Now what I can do now is I can just kind of guide it in there. All right, I got it in. I'm going to take the larger spring. Now, this is a brand new solenoid, so it has a nice gasket here that's going to kind of come off. But when you're cleaning them, your existing gasket will already be on there. It'll be flat. This is a brand new one on there. Got the spring. Just going to put that in there. And this should kind of be able to move up and down. Now, on my pipe here, you can see the top part of this pipe has this little imprint right here. That usually goes on the outside. So the outside's being that side, so I'm facing it that way. So I got it put back together now. Now I just put the screws in and it would be good. So now let's put this one back together. All right, so I've cleaned all my parts. I tried to get in here and clean this out. Now in this particular one, the gasket came off. Normally this doesn't come off, and normally I don't even take it off because I don't want to take a chance of ripping it. So normally I just leave this in, but this one came out, so I cleaned it. Okay, so now I'm going to take these pieces, I'm going to put them together. And I'm going to put them in to this piece right here. Got my plunger. And again, if you're unsure, just, as you take it apart, make sure you're taking pictures of how everything went together. That could be very helpful. Okay, now I'm just going to slide this back in. So this is going to be able to come up and down. Again, the spring being the biggest issue, it needs to be able to go back and forth. If it's all compressed with carbon, that's going to be one of your biggest issues. So I got that in there. Careful not to drop anything into the back cavity. I'm going to put my cover back on. All right, so I got the screws in. I usually get them about hand tight, and then get them a little tighter with the wrench, just trying not to overdo it. So when I got those in, now I can bring my coil back over, put that over the top, and then you're gonna have to get your retaining clip, and we're gonna put that on there. So it's all back together right now. Now, one thing I can do is I can actually test it just to see if it's working. So to test if a solenoid's working, we're gonna get into our menu. I'm gonna go to Program at number 4, Tech Mode number 7. I'm gonna go 1122 1122. I'm gonna go to T18. Now, in this mode, I can test different things like the heater, the primary contactor, but I'm going to test the pressure solenoid. Now, if I push this, I should hear the solenoid engage. You hear that? That's telling me that it's opening and closing. If I was to push that and I didn't hear any sound, or I heard a loud humming, I would know that something's not right. What I want to hear is this sound. All right, then I just finished up by putting my access cover back on. And I hope from watching this video that you learned that we should never be content saying, I'm just going to use this fryer for crispy. We should never be content just having our cooks pull the safety valve all the time. We should never be content having a repair person come out and spending $1,000 just to do something that, hopefully in this video, you realize that you can do yourself. Now, obviously, this is not something that we'd want a brand new cook doing. This is something more probably reserved for like an area coach, a general manager, maybe an experienced cook, someone that doesn't mind getting a little greasy, more mechanically inclined. And again, with the big things, obviously making sure that the fryer's cooled down and that the power has been turned off.